So for our next example, you're going to see a sign test which uses data that has a sample size greater than 25. The last example you saw in the slideshow, the sample size was less than 25. So we use that table 8 to find our critical value. In this, you can see that our sample size is a sample size of 85. So for this reason, we're going to go back and use the normal distribution again. So this is a realtor claims that the median sales prices of house sold in a certain region is 134,500. So because it is 134,500, that is going to go in our null hypothesis. So my null hypothesis is going to say that my median is equal to 134,500, and that is our claim. So our alternative hypothesis, as always, is going to say the exact opposite, that our median does not equal 134,500. All right, we're given that our alpha is equal to 0.10. So step 3, we're seeing that our sample size, now it says that our sample size is 85, but this is where we have to be careful here because we don't want to count any houses that are exactly the same as 134,500. We only want to count the houses that are either greater or less. So we're going to look at these two numbers. So it says that it reveals that 30 houses were sold for less. So that means when we're counting up our positive and our negatives, our negatives show that we have 30. It also says that we have 51 houses sold for more. So that means that our positives are 51, and that means that we would have had to have 4 values that were equal to 134,500. So we're going to throw those out of our sample size, and we're going to look at just our sample size at being 81. And since our critical value x has to be the smaller of the two, when we get to our formula, our x is going to be negative. Our x is going to be the negative values of 30, not negative 30. All right, so since we're using a normal distribution, number 4, I'm going to draw out my normal distribution. I won't have this drawing if I'm using table 8, because table 8 just gives me the rules as where do I reject or fail to reject. Since I'm using a normal distribution, I'll draw my two-tailed test because of my hypothesis of being equal and not equal. These are my rejection regions, reject, reject. And then my fail to reject region will be in the center. Since I'm looking at an alpha of 0.05, or an alpha of 0.1, but we split it up on a two-tailed test of 0.05, I get that my critical values are negative 1.645 and positive 1.645. So my rejection region, we're going to reject if our z is less or if z is greater. Okay. So now we have to go and perform our test or find our test statistics. So we're going to use that formula for our z-score. So our z is equal to x plus 0.5. So we've already determined that our x is going to be the smaller of our signs. Since negative was the smaller, we're going to use that 30. So z is equal to 30 plus a half minus a half times our sample size. Now it did say that our sample size was 85, but again, we take out any that are equal to that 134,500. So we're only using a sample size of 81, and we're going to divide this by the square root of 81 divided by 2. So after I do some calculations, my numerator ends up being negative 10, my denominator ends up being 4.5, and I get roughly negative 2.22, or actually, it might even be exact on this one, negative 2.222. All right. right, from there you can see that we're outside of our rejection region, so we're going to go ahead and reject our null hypothesis, and therefore we have enough evidence to reject the claim. That the median sales price of houses sold in a certain region is $134,500. As always, when we reject, there is a 10% chance of a type 1 error.